Hello and welcome to the 3D Amateur channel. Today we're going to finish building our IKEA Lack enclosure. So we have the acrylic panels to go around the outside, which may mean that at some point in the future we can start experimenting with ABS. But we'll see how that pans out. But to do that we need to remove the Ender 3 from here. We also need to clear everything that is on the top of here so we can pull the unit out and attach the panels around all sides. I also have another addition today. I've come into possession of an Ender 3 V2. So we're going to completely clear this space up here and we're going to have another printer above. Now this will still be the main printer, the Ender 3, as we've done so many upgrades to it. We've basically turned it into a V2 anyway. And it'll make it easier for recording and having the Raspberry Pi and everything that we did in the last video. So we'll still be focusing with this printer for now, but we may start seeing more videos with the other printers in the future, including the Mars. So this will be repositioned back over where my Pac-Man machine is, and once I've got everything all set up, obviously I can show you the whole setup of my office. But for now we need to clear this. We need to clear the Ender 3 from here, and then we need to pull this whole unit out so we can start attaching the panels around the outside. And there we have it. We are back with the enclosure fully completed. I have all of the acrylic panels on and the doors that can open and close, and you can already hear the difference it makes to the noise. So that's quite nice. I don't know that we will be printing with ABS, as this isn't really that airtight, although that may be a modification that we make in the future. And we also have the clock affixed to the inside back of the enclosure as well. So I think this will look really good with time lapses, and it does have a thermometer on there and a humidity sensor, so we'll be able to keep an eye on all of them numbers as well, which is quite handy. I do apologise for not recording the assembly, but my office isn't particularly big and it was going to be a bit of a pain to try and record and get everything assembled with the limited space that I had. So I do apologise for that, but I will try my best to include things like that in future videos, but now that I've got a little bit more workspace. I do now have the Ender 3 V2 sat above instead of having the Mars. So the Ender 3 V2, let's go and take a closer look at that. So the main differences you have between the Ender 3 and the Ender 3 V2 is the display, which is a much nicer display to use. The drawer is built in, which is quite nice. So it all comes as standard as part of it. But outside of that, well, and the main board. So the main board is actually mounted differently. It's actually mounted upside down in comparison to the traditional Ender 3, and the power supply is now actually directly behind, rather than being attached to this extrusion bar here. So there are a few differences, but the actual operation should be almost identical. The hot end setup is basically the same, although it does have a different cover, but we'll change that anyway as we start to modify this one. You can see that I've put the Aperture Science Z-axis cover on here, although we will end up doing the same thing as we have done with this one, and having the Raspberry Pi and the Raspberry Pi camera there as well in due course. For now, I have put the filament that runs to the Ender 3 on the side there, and that's on the rollers, so that should still be okay. And then we have just enough room to put the filament holder on top for the V2. So this is something that we will continue to improve on, although most of the modifications that I did to the Ender 3 have been to make it into a V2 by adding these belt tensioners, which was a separate add-on for the Ender 3, by adding the drawers, adding the silent stepper drivers and the silent mainboard. So all of them things that I've done on the Ender 3 has basically turned it into the V2, except with a worse display. So that's maybe something that we will also upgrade in the future. I don't know whether we'll be able to attach an Ender 3 V2 display and control to the Ender 3, but I have seen some interesting designs for some touchscreen ones, so let me know if that's something you would like to see. Now, what was up here was the Mars, so let's take a quick look over at the desk and we'll see what we've done over there. So here you can see back where we had the original Ender 3 before we built the enclosure, next to the Pac-Man machine there, we now have the Mars. We also have the ultrasonic cleaning station and the isopropyl alcohol to clean any resin prints, and the resin printed duck. Now I will want to do some videos about this particular printer in the future because it is very different to the FDM printer. There's a lot more precautions that have to be taken in terms of cleaning and what else you have to do to finish the prints, and also with the materials involved themselves. With PLA, PETG and ABS, obviously on the normal 3D printer there are some precautions to be taken, but none of them are as toxic as the resin that we use in here. So I will end up talking a bit more about this once I have a print in mind to do with the resin printer. I think I'm going to try and find a project that will require all 3 printers to be used at once, and then we can talk about the benefits and disadvantages of each, and delve into what the printers are capable of. Because the one thing that you can do with resin printing is you can have a much finer detail level, smaller layer lines, and you actually end up with better finished prints. So for detail work, this is actually an incredible printer for the price. So the last thing I want to address in this video is the direction and progress of the channel. It's called 3D Amateur for a reason, and that's because I'm an amateur not just at 3D printing, but also at 3D design. So while we watch this beautiful time-lapse, courtesy of Niteo47, I'll talk a little bit about the direction the next few videos are going to take. We are going to start looking at using FreeCAD software, which is what you're seeing on screen now, and going to be using this to design various different things. Specifically, the next video should be about a streaming light, so the time lapses will have better or more even lighting, and how we're going to go about designing that and building that all through FreeCAD. Now I'm a complete novice at FreeCAD, so Niteo47 will be guiding me through this and teaching me how to use it and how to design within it. We're going to be doing this on some live streams, so if that's something that you would find interesting, then please do head over to Twitch. It's just twitch.tv/3damateur, so exactly the same as what's on YouTube. And I'll also be streaming on there the full printing of some of the 3D prints that I do. So if you did want to see that, a little bit of background music, and a full 3D print from start to finish, then by all means head over there and give them a follow as well. So for those of you that have already subscribed, you may have noticed that my schedule is every 2 weeks, and I'm going to maintain that with the bigger videos. But I am going to try and start doing weekly videos as well. So we'll alternate with bigger project videos, with smaller print videos, little kind of tidbits and advice and things like that. So I'm going to try and do some smaller 5-minute videos, say, about slicer settings and things like that. So again, if that's something you'd find interesting and you're not already subscribed, then please do hit that subscribe button. If you did like this video, then you can also hit that like button down below. If you do also have any suggestions or improvements, then you can also leave them in the comments below. I do read all of them and do take on board the suggestions. And that's everything from me. So I'll leave you with this beautiful time-lapse for this custom designed webcam stand that will sit a webcam on top and then mount onto the vertical arm of a monitor desk mount with a lovely bit of background music. And at the end of the time-lapse will be the time-lapse of the print as well. And hopefully I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching, take care and have a great day.